and allow me to quickly give you a welcoming note. So welcome to this discussion themed Women, Business and Law, where we've joined together now to assess women's financial inclusion and economic opportunities. Well, I'd like to bring to your attention that this webinar is organized by the Women in Finance and Investment Network. And my name is Dikshita, and I shall be your moderator for this discussion. So just something very quickly for our audience. This webinar, the recording of this webinar will be made available on our website. So you can always, refer to the recording, if in case you need any reference, details, whatever. So it will be there. And also this webinar has been brought together to you by Wyffin, along with our educational partners, the CGIA Institute, Chartered Global Investment Analyst, ICCE, Institute of Certified Chartered Economists, Westline Co., and our media partners, the FI Sense, Economy 360, and our facilitators company, CQ Legal and Consulting. Now, before we jumped to the subject of matter, which is themed Women, Business and Law, allow me to give you a breakdown of today's session. To start with, I would give you a brief introduction about the Women in Finance and Investment Network. Well, this is mostly for those who are new to Wyffin. I will then introduce to you our facilitator, and our facilitator will take over and share with us her insights. And after that, we'll roll with a Q&A, and we would like to interact with you and get your points of views and your questions, and let's just make it very interactive. So I will quickly just share my screen for a brief presentation that I want to make available to you. So let me do that. All right. Okay, so Women in Finance and Investment Network. And as you can see here in our brief, we shall cover, well, what Wyffin is about, the membership benefits, and also who can join. So Wyffin is a nonprofit. It's a membership-based organization which is committed to taking actions to bridge a generational gap and a gender gap in the finance and investment management industry. Well, it is known globally that there is an underrepresentation of women in the finance, investment, banking, insurance, fintech, private equity, venture capitals. I can go on with the list. And at Wyffin, well, we are aiming to address this underrepresentation by empowering women, at every stage of their professional career. We firmly believe that with an increased visibility of current female leaders and professionals, the next generation of talent will be motivated to aspire to such roles together, and we can build a strong interconnectivity in the finance ecosystem. So, well, this is some of the data that we've found, and we exist to give women the opportunity to receive highest level of education, of course, to a global network. All right. And as written here, our vision is to accelerate the growth and raise women leaders in the finance and investment space globally. And our commitment is to empower these women to successfully achieve their professional potential at each and every stage of their career. Wyffin stands for diversity by building a trusting, open, and inclusive environment where we raise women professionals in the finance and investment management industry. Synergy by connecting women at various levels of leadership in the industry. And opportunities, because we believe that our collective effort as an organization is going to become a catalyst for a transformed finance and investment industry in the future. Well, as you can see here, this is our global Wyffin team. a group of dedicated young women in the finance and investment space who believe in creating impact and to become a complementary voice to amplify and broaden the conversations around diversity and inclusion. They oversee all activities under our various different chapters, namely Australia, Botswana, Ghana, Mauritius, and the UK. Now, quickly, I'm going to take you through our membership. So there are various membership benefits that Wyffin members have access to. First, through a global network, members have the opportunity to network with professionals from other global institutions around the world on a single platform. At Wyffin, we seek to partner with organizations to create internships and full-time job opportunities for our members to benefit from. In line with our vision and mission, Wyffin, along with our educational partners, have introduced a merit-based scholarship schemes for its members across the world. And this scholarship is offered both in full and partial for our members who wish to enroll in the charter program. Wyffin also facilitates regular workshops, capacity building programs for its members across all levels to enable them to build career ambitions and develop relevant skills needed to succeed in the industry. We also have well-structured programs, both virtual and physical, to engage our members throughout the year to enhance the professional capacities of members to network at chapter, regional, and global levels. Now, members also have access to newsletters and regular interviews with successful women in the industry who shares with us their expertise, insights, and their journeys. So, of course, who can join? Well, if you are a female university student, a recent graduate, or a woman who has already started her career in the finance and investment space, well, you are welcome to join us. There is a subscription fee attached annually, and I think more details about this is available on the website. So if you want to have a look at that, please visit our website. We also have room for institutional partners, those who are champions of diversity and they share deeply in our common vision. Again, more information about this is available on our website. So how to join? All right, so the easiest thing and the only thing that you have to do is to visit the Wyffin website at www.wyffinglobal.org and fill in the application, the membership application form, and follow the steps. And our team will be available to assist you in case you face any difficulties in doing so. So this is it about the Women in Finance and Investment Network. Thank you so much for giving me the audience and to listen while I did this presentation. If you have any questions, anything about it, please be free to let us know in the Q&A session. And let me stop sharing. All right. So back to our topic and the subject matter at hand: women, business, and law. We are here to assess women's financial inclusion and economic opportunities. Well, I would say that in determining what needs to be done to close the gender gap in financial inclusion and creating economic opportunities, there is a compelling argument for taking a closer look at what policymakers and central bankers are doing to create an enabling policy environment, particularly for supporting women's access to digital financial services. In this webinar, we will be assessing women's financial inclusion and economic opportunities, and it will help us deepen our understanding of the financial inclusion, gender gaps, as well as to focus on how providers can serve female customers better. We will also unpack the benefits and the challenges involved in various approaches in better understanding and serving female customers across the world. And we are joined today with our expert, Cynthia Kwaku, to share her insights with us. I will roll with giving you a brief about Cynthia. Cynthia is the founder and managing partner at CQ Legal and Consulting. She has extensive experience as a corporate and finance lawyer in Ghana and the United Kingdom with over 15 years experience representing institutional clients. Cynthia is an experienced corporate commercial lawyer with finance experience with specialization in the energy, financial, and infrastructure sectors. An economics and business graduate, Cynthia's early career as an analyst at PricewaterhouseCoopers has strengthened her ability to provide clients with commercially sound legal advice. Some of her past roles include senior associate in the banking and finance practice of international law firm Fasken Martino LLP in London, and as a consultant senior lawyer in the international finance and corporate department at Radix Legal and Consulting in London. Yes. She also holds an LLM in corporate commercial law and is currently undertaking an LLM in banking and finance law. She holds a postgraduate diploma in law, Bachelor of Arts in economics and business law, and is a barrister of England and Wales, barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Ghana. She is a member of the Honorable Society of Lincoln's Inn, the Ghana Bar Association, International Bar Association, Financial Services Lawyers Association in the UK, Inter-Pacific Bar Association, American Bar Association, and Ghana Association of Restructuring and Insolvency Advisors. She is currently a board director of Sinit Energy and Guba Enterprise. Cynthia, very warm welcome to you, and we are extremely happy to have you on our platform.
Okay, thank you so much. Every time I get something written about me, I'm first of all like, who are they reading about? But let me tell you let me reintroduce Cynthia, right? So Cynthia is a mother of 6 who has been through a divorce, has been to cancer twice in her life, has had to raise children on her own for the last at least 14 years as a single mother. I believe I have numerous other children that I raised out of my 6. So when you talk about financial inclusion and creating opportunities for women, I'm absolutely enthused to talk about it because I've lived it as a woman on many levels. And there's just so much we can talk about, but I think that when I present my data, I'm going to start off my presentation with the facts, as you know, and I'm saying to you earlier on that when I got my research team or my associates to put together that data for me, and they sent it to me, I was surprised, you know, at the data that was out there, and so it sort of stirred up a lot in me. And so we definitely do know already that there is issues and there's policy considerations that have to be made, but I'm not intending that we dwell too much on the issues. I hope that after we've highlighted what the data says, we will go into a discussion starting with my opinion of how we all collectively have to start making micro efforts into changing the narrative. So that's how it's going to go. So I'm going to get my IT in very quickly to give me the screen, and then we're going to go through the data, you know, and I'll walk through the data, and then later on, I will hopefully come off it, and then we can start the interaction.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so. And I'll just, you know, just a gentle reminder to our audience. So we're gonna have a Q&A session afterwards, like Cynthia just said, so be ready with your questions and everything. So when we roll with interacting with our audience, you can always pop your questions to us.
And so, be ready to answer some questions too. I'm not going to be on the hot seat on my own. There are 42 participants in this room with varied experiences and a lot of knowledge to share. So don't put me on the hot seat on my own. I will ask you questions too. Okay, so
Perfect.
I mean, the topic for today was women, business and law, assessing women's financial inclusion and economic opportunities. Quite a heavy topic, isn't it? It's so loaded. I'm not sure whether we can do justice to it in an hour and a half. I think the topic of women alone is one big issue. The topic of business and women is another issue, and the topic of business law is another issue. So yes, let's, how do I flip this? Hold on a minute, let's go up and down. I'm just gonna, yeah. So just to go through, so the introduction gives you an idea of, what I intend to talk about. And as I said, this is all data that I've analyzed, okay, to present. So I will start off by, you can read, but I'll read it, and then where I need to say something, I will. So, empowering women, of course, and promoting gender equality is definitely critical to the acceleration of economic growth and development. There's no doubt about that. I think it's fact. I come from an economics background. I mean, just to go a little bit back to tell you why I'm so interested in this topic. I was a science student. I decided not to go to university directly. I then went and worked in industry, had 2 children, and then decided to go back to university. And because I'm a science student, I couldn't do a liberal arts degree. I had to do something that was a little bit more weighty. So I decided that economics appealed to me. And so I studied economics, and then somewhere along the line, I combined with business law. After my economics degree, I wanted to go into development economics, because during my final year thesis in my undergraduate course, I did some research on microfinance. And I was absolutely enthralled by a gentleman called Professor Yunus. I'm sure those of you from the Asian part know who Professor Yunus is. It's about microfinancing and lending. And this was a man who started lending to women in villages and created this whole empire, and empowering women through his lending, tools to become self-sufficient, and the basis of this lending wasn't security, but it was actually trust, right? It was based on the principle of trust. So I wanted to do development economics, and I actually got a place in Imperial College to study development economics. Then I had another child, somewhere along the line, I had to work to support my then husband to raise his children. So, life became what it had to be. But somewhere along the line, I decided to go back to university to study something. And I was fortunate enough to win 2 scholarships in Lincoln's Inn to be able to provide me with a platform to study law. So right from the very beginning, theoretically and practically, I knew that the gender equality issue existed. I experienced some of it, but I knew that it was something that we needed to get right. And many, many years after that, it is quite appalling that we're still having this conversation. Mm-hmm. The data says that globally, not only about 55 women are engaged in labor market, as opposed to 78% of men. Let's let that sink in. It has also been observed that women earn about 50% less than men on the and this is where we need to correct, occupy fewer leadership positions.
Sure.
So in Ghana, for instance, it's 14.5% of parliamentary positions are occupied by women. Okay, so there's a problem, right? And we also agree that the responsibility is not just about government. It is international organizations, it is pressure groups, it's a private sector. And we all form part of that private sector. Whether we're small businesses, whether we're hiring domestic staff. We are all part of that private sector. Many of us are paying women to work for us. Financial inclusion means, as you all know, just a definition that I found interesting, that individuals and businesses have to have access to useful and affordable financial products and services that meet their needs. And that's the World Bank's definition. Financial inclusion or access to families and businesses plan for everything from long-term goals to unexpected emergencies. Why am I starting with this? I could have taken the topic in terms of, and I do know the goals of your organization is to empower women, to inspire women, to become leaders within the financial space. But in doing that, there has to be a mindset change about how women view finance and how women view finance, and that starts with the change of a mindset. So the question that I wanted to know is, are women financially included? 2017, a World Bank report showed that globally about 1.7 billion adults remain unbanked. And unbanked means without an account at a financial institution or through a mobile money provider. So the report further stated that 56% of these were women. Globally, women have fewer economic opportunities. Women are more likely to work in informal employment. Many of us here on this platform employ a lot of such women as domestic staff and all of that. And they are oftentimes vulnerable, low paid and undervalued jobs. And about 1 in 10 are not, as per the United Nations data, are not consulted about the way their monies are spent. In addition, women often have more limited opportunities for educational attainment, employment, asset ownership, land ownership, and control over their financial futures in general. Per the 2017 Global Findex survey, there are various reasons why people remain unbanked. And these are not comprehensive, are limited to having too little money in the bank, cost of financial services and distance, the gaps in digitization in certain areas, distrust in financial system, and religious concerns. So there are clearly barriers, and we're going to go into this is the micro picture. We're going to go into the macro picture a bit later. And on the demand side, as you can see, if all of you can see the screen, some of the barriers are lack of bargaining power within the household, concentration on lower paying economic activities, competing demands on women's time. I personally think that, I think Kenya recently passed a law saying that housewives, it was a credible job. So people need to be paid to be housewives, which I think is a step in the right direction. Some of the demand side barriers are lack of formal identification, collateral, reduced mobility, and all of that. And then from the supply side, inappropriate offerings, all of that. I'm not going to bore you by going through them, but you can see them. And I'm only setting the tone for the conversation. So the question is, in terms of bridging the gap, if we look at the data provided by Global Findex database, you can see that in East Asia and Pacific, you can see what the gap is. If you move to Europe and Central Asia, we always can see it. If we also move into Latin American, Caribbean, Middle East, the data is there for us to see what the reality is on the ground in terms of account ownership alone. And the importance of an account ownership in the terms of economic development of women is very crucial because, access to credit, it's absolutely important. Moving again on to about the gender gap. The gender gap is not magically going to close by itself. We definitely know that it wouldn't. And so we must be ready to work towards achieving this. And this is one of the things that progress and financial inclusion, the gender gap in account ownership has remained persistent since 2011, according to the Global Findex. And the reasons are complex, often interwoven with greater exclusion and vulnerability for women than men, and underpinned by social norms which are not well understood or tackled by financial inclusion programming, which speaks to policy issues. Increasing access to financial products and services is essential in promoting economic growth. Increasing women's financial inclusion is especially important as women disproportionately experience poverty, stemming from unequal divisions of labor and a lack of control over economic resources. Many women remain dependent on their husbands, unfortunately, and 1 in 3 married women from developing countries have no control whatsoever over household spending on major purchases. That's the data. I'm not saying it. The private sector, as well as international organizations, have obviously a key role to play. That's understandable. But we all have an equal role to play in changing this narrative. The private sector can contribute by ensuring salaries are paid fairly to women, as well as creating more leadership opportunities for women and providing systems that creates work-life balance and safety and all of that. These are just some things, you know, the government, of course, has to create and ensure that there's an enabling environment for the implementation of the right policies that are more gender-oriented to favor women. Recommendations, some of them, you know, I wouldn't bore you with them, but some of the recommendations made by international organizations, apart from the sustainable goals that by year 2030, there should be more inclusion of women in economy, growth, and regarding gender equality. The IMF is also contributing by working on diversifying their leadership by supporting women to occupy more leadership positions. You know, if efforts are made, you know, there's so much being done in terms of trying to make sure that the gap is reduced. Because we know it is impeding the economic growth, particularly of women. So this is the data, okay? This is the data. I like to end this part of my conversation by reading aloud this powerful quote. So there are 2 powers in the world. One is a sword. The other is a pen. There is a power stronger than both. That is a woman. Let that sink in whilst I get out of my screen, and then the dialogue will start. Okay. So how do I get out of the screen? Very quickly, then I can, yeah, how do I do that? Stop sharing. See, I'm completely, see, I need education. So this is a reality on the ground. And it starts with financial literacy. Before we can start to advocate and make serious change, we need a lot more women who at a very young age are financially literate. We need a lot of sector with the aim of making change to contribute to policy making. This is one part of it. We need a lot of women to mobilize themselves, to change the narrative by being part of the solution themselves and not waiting for governments, pressure groups, to make that change. If I had to be honest with you, when I saw the data, I asked myself a few questions. I have employed women in my law firm, in various other companies that I have as domestic staff. As an employer, what role have I played as a woman to ensure the independence and financial security of other women? Have I contributed to this in a positive way, or have I done that in a negative way? When I have to take on a domestic staff, and I know the poor woman has 3 children and didn't have the privilege of being able to be educated, but wants to do more for her own children, what role have I played as a woman to ensure that when I pay that woman, I'm not taking advantage of the fact that she's an illiterate and keeping her on a certain level in society so that she doesn't advance herself? What role have I played? What role have I played when a young woman comes to me and needs my support to either go to school, to learn a trade, to do something? What role have I played in doing that? It is easy for all of us to blame governments and blame policymakers, but we as stakeholders ourselves as women, what role are we playing to ensure that 20 years from now, the next generation of women are empowered to be in leadership positions to change the narrative? What role are we playing?
Yeah.
Because I've had the opportunity, having worked after my degree in economics, worked in Bank of England, worked within the stock market, worked within consultant firms such as Goldman Sachs and PricewaterhouseCoopers, where the money is. I've had that opportunity to be on boards where decisions have been taken that affect women. I have been in places where it's totally dominated by men. And clearly the agenda and fighting for change, they are not women. It is only women who really understand what it is to be a woman. It is only a single mother who understands the reality of how she feeds her children when she doesn't have enough to go around, and she has to give them a meal, and she has to decide, I'm fasting, so today I'm not going to eat lunch, because she has to save. It is only women. And we need to start getting a place on the table to start changing the narrative. That is why organizations such as yours is absolutely crucial. That is why, as women leaders, and I consider every person on this platform an advocate for women, the students are leaders, everyone who's working or wants to work within the finance and investment world, or even is not doing that, is a catalyst for this change. Oftentimes we sit on platforms and we talk about the issues. It makes us feel good. It gives us an excuse,
We're
to
talking
say
about it.
Yeah, so we're talking about it. At least we're talking about it.
But what are we
it's
doing?
not our problem, but it's not our problem. You see,
Yeah.
It's there. The statistics are there. And it's not our problem. But whose problem is it?
This question.
It should start from the micro level.
Yeah.
I challenge everybody who's a woman on this platform, who employs another woman, who may not be as advantaged as you are to start in your own background, your backyard, by making the steps to ensure that financial inclusion and empowerment of women financially is done. You may contribute your own little way, because when we do that, we provide opportunity for a lot of more women to grow into leadership, then there is a catalyst effect, because the more women go who work in finance and investment, they will demand change. The more women who are educated, they will create financial products that benefit women. The more. We cannot expect that we'll make any radical change if the decision makers are dominated by men.
I agree. I agree. And absolutely, this is something that we're trying to achieve too. And we cannot just have these things achieved by talking. It doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
Actions need to be taken by women.
Actions need to be taken by our women. We need to lift each other up.
Yeah.
From our background. I mean, I know stories of women who have found themselves in leadership positions who don't bring other women up with them. We know the story. Who actually feel very intimidated by mentoring other women to reach where they've reached, right? It has to start there. I am not saying that government, policymakers, the World Bank, all of those don't have a role to play, but I'm saying that on a macro level, they do have a role to play. But equally on a micro level, we all in our little corners need to start brightening our little corners and changing the perception and changing the dynamics and changing the mindset and changing the narrative, right? Because if we encourage a lot more women to understand financial products, and why is it important that financial inclusion within the sector of women who have bank accounts? Why is it? Because whether we like it or not, to be able to even set up, I mean, there's documentation. I spoke once at an event of CEO, female CEO, I was a guest, speaker at this event, and the research suggested that even in Africa, there are about 85% of women are self-employed, have started businesses. But if you look at the trajectory of businesses and the success of businesses, and starting a business and building it into a legacy company, half of those businesses fail along the way, right? And a lot of them fail along the way because of lack of finance. For every business to grow, if you don't have, in actual fact, even if you wanted to encourage your community to invest in your business, you need to put together a business plan. You need to be very financially savvy to be able to put together, to convince people to invest in your business. At some point, you may need to borrow money. And if you don't have access to finance, you don't know how to manage money, right? How are you going to be an empowered woman to make the changes? We've been conditioned that when you get your first job, get the Louis Vuitton bag and get those shoes. We haven't been many of us have not been conditioned that you should save a certain amount of your income, or you should invest in stocks and shares, or you should flip this. We haven't been encouraged as women to take risks like men do when it comes to financial services. So it starts with a mindset change. It starts with a mindset change. And so I think my submission, first of all, is to task all of us to think on this level. I'm not sure whether this is what you expected me to come and say, but the reality is Let's start on that. Let's start the conversation on that level. As simple as it is, what are we doing to change that? Because it's about solutions. And you know, we will talk about the solutions, but if we are not doing something about the solutions, we're going to have another conversation in 10 years' time talking about the same topic.
Yep.
And I don't think so. I like to start off by this, and I'd like to hear what your views are on this topic of financial inclusion, but I'm tackling it from the point of view of individually, the little roles all of us can play, contribute to the big picture of women inclusion. Data is great for policy crafting, but get down to the ground and make a difference, yes, with small and little things that can impact millions of the lives of women. Absolutely right, absolutely right. So that's where I'm coming from. How do we change that?
Okay, you can hear me? Yeah, can you hear Cynthia? Yeah, I thought as much. Yeah, I think there's a network issue at her end. She has joined us. Perfect.
Yeah, I think, great, we're back.
Yeah, we were just discussing about
Brilliant.
that.
Brilliant. Okay, so I thought it was my end, but it's yes. So that's what I want to leave us with. Let's start off with that conversation. And I'd like to hear the attendees. I've got a few, but please feel free to share. And I think me and you can also, because I'm reading the question and answer. We develop real estate and smart cities in Africa, Surely Africa. We are open to collaboration. So, okay, someone is a PNC networks. Okay, that's great. So if anybody wants to contact them, they are there. Questions, and then where you have to ask me, I can step in. Shika.
Okay. Well, let me just see what we have from our attendees. Okay. We have a few questions actually, and I think we can take some questions from our attendees about this topic, about this conversation, about what you think. I mean, we are also interested in hearing your point of views about women's financial inclusion, because it's not a conversation that two people can have. We want to hear your point of views. I would give an example, the Women in Finance and Investment Network. Well, we've carried a few surveys, just like you brought to us facts and figures and numbers that show what's happening in the world. I would like to share this as well with you. In the world, there's only less than 20% of women in leadership roles in the finance and investment sector. Yeah. Less than 20% across the world. And if you take economies like the US, right? Let me just take US, for example. It's an advanced economy now. Women sitting on board make only 12%. Only 12% compared to men. And we are talking about the US. Now think about developing countries. economies that are now emerged. I mean, the difference is so huge that conversation cannot only do things and change things. We need to make room for women. Women need to understand that it's their time to take action for themselves and for the next generation of women. If we don't do it right now, then who else will? That's the question. So we are here, we are talking about it, we are doing things, we're bringing conversations. Let us hear from you, please. I think I'll open the question, the floor for questions and for your feedbacks, for your opinions. Anything you want to ask our expert, let us have her opinion. So please feel free to share your questions with us. And
okay, so I've got a question that I'm particularly enthused about. It's from Gia. It says, as a high schooler, how can I help contribute as of now instead of waiting to finish school? Took the words out of my mouth, because the premise of all I've said today is based on the fact that this change must start earlier than later. Right? We need to start equipping our young ones. And I think this is where I challenge organizations such as you and leaders within the finance, including myself in the finance sector, to have mentoring schemes and mentor young people. You know, I'm not so as much interested in the graduates as I am interested in the high schoolers. Because by the time they get to the graduate school level, they've made their choices. The financial and investment sector is one of those sectors that you need to have made choices in terms of the grades that you want to study, the subjects you want to study from a very early stage, to even be able to stand a chance of getting into the right universities, to be able to get into the right firms and to the right boardrooms. That's the reality. It is a fact of life that in many regards, and I'm not saying this, that there are of course exceptions, to be a high level playing person within the finance and investment network globally, you ought to have gone to certain Ivy League universities and Russell universities to get hired to be somewhere. So the conversation does not start there. We need to broaden that conversation. We need to start equipping young women. Gia, yourself, if there is a society that you can join as a student that would provide you with the opportunity to be mentored by somebody, internship programs when you're younger, find somebody within the finance sector who you admire, write to them, ask them to come and intern with them. Don't think about money at this stage, think about exposure. If there's somebody within your community who is a well-vexed business person or authority, you'll be amazed how much networking can do. People don't take networking that seriously. And particularly as women, we're not very good at taking opportunities and networking. But that person that you admire could become the mentor if you write to them and ask them. In fact, now you could even do virtual internships.
Yes.
Right? So that you can, from a very young age, start understanding the importance of finance. Many women don't understand the importance of finance and the link to economic growth.
Yep.
Finance for them is to ensure that I pay school fees, I can put food on the table, I can buy pretty clothes, but they don't see the importance of that. And so there has to be some level of financial literacy programs from a very young age, right? To encourage more women to understand the role of financing, so that I would like to see a lot more women enter the finance profession on different levels. If it's technology, there's fintech, that's a great opportunity. If you're an IT person, or you could branch into fintech. What's wrong with setting up a fintech product that is geared towards women? Technology is becoming the tool, and fintech is a huge tool within the finance sector. But most fintech companies are owned by younger men and women. I don't see too many. There are there, but I like to see more of that. If it's law, within the finance sector of law, pushing it, we need a lot more of that. So Gia, I hope I helped you. So, go around, find people you admire, intern, join clubs, do a lot, and then start getting your mind broadened. Read books about how the stock market works, how finance really works. The world revolves around financing, and a lot of women don't understand the importance of finance to our economic developments. We need to change that.
I would also like to add to what Gia asked. So just like Cynthia said, it's your time to take things in your hands, right? And I would also like to know where you are from. Because like from the name, I could guess it could be Mauritius, it could be India, it could be something like that. But do let me know where you're from, because for that, for what you're asking, I would like to tell you that we have chapters in various countries that do networking sessions. Okay, Mauritius, well, hello.
Mauritius.
I'm happy that a Mauritian is here. We do have a Mauritian chapter of Women in Finance, actually, and we do organize workshops, and we have mentorship, coaching sessions for students to working people, professionals. So, if that is of your interest, please feel free to reach out. We can assist you with what you want, for your development, etc. So feel free to reach out to our Mauritian chapter. So Cynthia, take over.
Okay, so another comment says, women's inclusion is progressing slowly but surely. It may be harder than we expect since we are in a patriarchal society, agree? But in my opinion, it is our role as professional women to incur this culture to our respective companies. I agree 100%. It starts from the background. It starts, and I would even say further, it starts from the home. Those of us who are high in domestic staff, go back and increase those salaries. Don't take advantage of these poor women. Empower them. Ask them, what do there's so much we can do as women, but you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Okay, so there are a few more comments on top, but let me just go through so I don't miss anybody. Hello, good afternoon. A lot of it, but how come, okay, who's my lady from Northampton? I can't hear you say anything. Where are you? Damilola, you're in Nigerian. I'd like to hear or see you write something. What are your thoughts on this, please? Someone from Nsuta Ashanti, Ghana, Rural Bank, Ghana. Please, do you have any comment? As somebody who works from the Rural Bank, I'm sure you see a lot of this, in terms of access to finance for women. Do you want to share something on that? Adiola, I'd love to hear from you, what your views are on what we're saying. Okay, great. We have Noella from Netherlands who's studying law and finance. I like that. So let's make an impact. Let's make an impact. I hope that you do well and you find yourself in a position where you can contribute your quota in changing this narrative. A journalism student, awesome. Doris, okay, who else? Yeah, please, I want to see more comments. Don't do that. Okay, someone said the excitement is mutual. I know. We can connect with you on yes, I know. And we do have PNCs and networks actually who are asking anybody to, yeah. Okay, so Edoji, oh, madam, yeah, I have 6 children. Can you imagine? 6 children. My last one is 18, by the way. So I don't know, do I have children? Yes, I have children. They'll always be my children. So my oldest is 29 and my last is 18. 5 daughters and 1 son. So this topic is very important to me. I've started in my own way trying to teach my children the importance of financial literacy and inclusion and how they can empower themselves. Unfortunately, none of my children are going into finance at all. Okay.
But I will ask you one thing, Cynthia.
Yeah.
So
yes, please.
You are a mother of 4 girls. That's correct.
5 girls.
5 girls.
5 girls.
5
Yes.
girls. And I mean, let's take this conversation from, coming from an emerging market. Let's say, we're talking about countries like Africa and Asia. And I would say, sometimes there is this, I think societal norms around, that surrounds girls and how independent they should be with money, how financially independent they should be. I mean, there are these things that aside, coming with building the next generation of women leaders, I think this is also something that we need to talk about, because in emerging markets, in economies that are now coming up small, I think there is still a cultural, a traditionalistic.
I mean, you're being.
Hello?
Let me. you're being politically correct. You're too kind.
But I'm trying to make the point, how, I mean, what do we do? How do we deal with that?
Okay. We need to change the narrative. We need to, look, up till today, society still, no matter how educated you are as a woman, if you haven't found yourself a husband, you haven't arrived. Because the notion is that a woman, and I agree, I mean, it's, I adore marriage. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. But a woman's main goal is to get married and have children and raise those children. And a man's main focus should be the provider for that family, right? So despite education, there's that still that undertone of the cultural influence on how we perceive even our children, right? I have made a conscious effort in my house not to draw those strict divides between my daughters and my son. But sometimes I find myself shifting because we are all products of the environment in which we were raised. Right? So it starts from that level. So you send your daughters to university, they qualify, and the next thing is you need to find yourself a husband and marry. So the financial independence of a woman is not as important. In actual fact, if you're a woman and you are too successful, you can become a threat. If you're a woman and you are too successful, it can become a threat, right? So the societal, that's why it has to be micro. We would change that collectively. The same way now Africa, Asia, there's a lot of Western ideologies and ideas that that are infiltrating our traditional African homes. A mindset change can also do that, right? It's little by little, but unfortunately it exists. And that's a shame. There's not as much pressure on women to be successful financially as it is on men to be successful financially. Yeah. The world has changed. Every home needs 2 incomes, right? So it's just an implicit part of African and Asian societies, which I think needs to change.
Yeah,
right? And
I would
because
agree
of
with
that,
you.
women do not concern themselves at a very young age about investing, making money, all of that. They just, you know, if I get a job and I have a great salary and I can whatever, because after all, it's not my responsibility, it's a man's responsibility, you know, so there's that. And then somebody said two things here also, is that, you know, there's definitely like lack of diversity. I find that this is also the case within families. When talking to your mom or aunties versus your cousins, there's a gap within the beliefs in regards to finance and jobs for women. Very, very true. And then Barbara also, I think this is Shali, I think, and then Barbara says, banks are not even ready to give loans to women with small startups. Fact. In fact, more women go into self-employment than our employees. Right? And it's a fact, right? And then Johan, forgive me if I don't pronounce your name properly, but Johan,
that's correct.
That is something that should be instated at the beginning into schools and help women have the similar mindsets of not being afraid to take risk. Very, very true. Very, very true. And then Sharon Akumia says, it will be good to see financial institutions, especially in developing countries, embrace corporate social responsibility and offer up their employees to go into schools. Very, very true. Great idea. And conduct workshops on financial literacy. When I was at school in the UK, we had an HSBC school bank, and I opened my first bank account. So you see, that's cultural difference, right?
We have a question
and
from
Dia says,
Gia.
oh, this is,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me
so
give you the question.
Read it. You go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, you go ahead and read.
So Gia says, you both are incredible, successful women. What was the biggest hurdle you had to overcome to be where you are, Cynthia?
Okay, should I go first or you go first?
You go first. I have a long way to go.
Okay. Oh my God, you know, I think there are two, I don't even see, I'm so conditioned not to see hurdles as a bad thing. I see them as an opportunity. So oftentimes when I'm asked questions about what are the most difficult hurdles you face, I find it very difficult. I'm not pretending. Very difficult because I've conditioned myself at this stage in my life, in the last 10 years or so, to appreciate that the things that I considered hurdles were opportunities in disguise for me, right? That being said, definitely finance was one of them. I made some absolutely horrendous mistakes as a woman, as a mother, financially, that when I look back, I think if I had the opportunity to have been financially literate, I could have been a billionaire. Right? Wrong choices in terms of what was important. I was that 24-year-old who became bankrupt simply because I maxed out my credit cards. I didn't have financial literacy. So at a very young age, I got my first job in retail, was working at Harrods. And it was a big deal at the time because there weren't a lot of Black people working at Harrods. But that also brought with it this false idea that I had arrived. And the pressures of society and what we women, the pressures of wanting to look better than the other person, which stems from a place of insecurity, at least in my case. You know, I spent money that I could have saved buying ridiculous things that were totally not relevant. How many shoes can you wear? How many bags can you hold? How many dresses can you wear? Seriously, when I look back at some of the financial investments and the wrong things that I made, I look back now and I'm thinking, if I had put that money that I used to buy all these things in stocks and shares, and I knew where to invest my money and I knew what to do, I would have been able to, at a certain stage in my life, make those sacrifices, but be able to afford them.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, one of the biggest hurdles has been my lack of financial knowledge. And you would think that I should have financial knowledge, right? Because I did a degree in economics, and I went, no, financial literacy is completely different. You know, I read books, yes, Robert Kiyosaki and other books, right? And I read them very late, my dear. Look, every woman in this platform, go and get yourself that book, please. And don't just read it, apply it, you know. And it was only after my divorce, when I was, you know, I've always raised my kids, let me just put on a record, but after my divorce and the reality of, okay, there's now going to be just one income and I'm broke and I don't know, and my kids are in expensive schools and all of those things. And I started the journey of teaching myself the importance of networking, building myself, financial literacy and all of that. And I read these books, and there were two parts. There was a whole 5 years or so of me attending every single conference that you could find, but never really applying the principles that I learned in these conferences. So now in my 50s, I'm only turning 52 this year, I can say that in my 50s is when it's clicked. And to the young people on this platform, please do not wait till you're 50. Start now.
Yeah.
You know, start putting money aside, start reading. You know, there's so much on the internet these days that we shouldn't even be asking these questions, you know. Instead of spending time on Instagram and TikTok and all the social media sites.
You just reminded me of my sister right now.
You know, equally, find some courses on stocks and shares and how to invest in the financial markets and all of those things.
Yeah. And
educate yourself, right? Very because important. It is important that we all do as women. Okay, so Johan again says,
I'll take
so
Gia's,
Gia, have I answered your question? Yes, so take Gia's one.
I'll take Gia's question. Well, unlike Cynthia, I don't have the experience to back me. You know, I'm pretty young and just starting career, I would say. But, you know, there is something, I mean, as you asked, successful. I think the term successful for me is not defined yet. I mean, I can't consider myself successful because I have more room to grow. But if you ask me, the biggest hurdle that I've come across is initially when I was a student, I didn't believe that I could do things by myself. I didn't have this belief. And I think this is the biggest hurdle that I've come across. And I was able to kind of, you know, overcome that, because to be able to believe in myself was the number one, you know, thing that led me to taking actions for myself, to reading, to researching, to believing in networking, to believing that I can do something that is, you know, empowering enough, or I can stand on my feet, I can be financially independent. You know, all of this didn't come to me just like that. It took an effort from me to step out of my comfort zone and to start building my mindset around things that I believe is extremely important for me as a woman living in 2021. I cannot depend on someone. I have to be independent by myself. So I think this is the one hurdle that I've come across. And I would also like to add, you know, as a young girl from the family that I come from, whenever there is something like a document comes home, you know, usually it's my dad who handles it. But I would also like to, you know, bring this here, that my parents has made us involved in decision making when it comes to money. So what do you think? Like, what do we think? What should we do with this, you know, project or this sum of money? Should we invest? Shouldn't we invest? Is it risky? Is it not risky? they take our advice. And I was just a teenager. What do I know? Right? But they instilled this in us, that you need to understand how to deal with money, right? You need to understand how to be financially independent. You need to be able to make decisions for yourselves in the future. So I think that this comes from my parent, and they kind of pushed me to start thinking that, it's time, one day I'll have to stand on my feet and I'll have to do things, and you better do things not to regret. And how to do that? Well, be educated, know what you want, and try as much as you can to make the right decisions. And well, people make decisions, but how do we know it's right? Right? It's something that happens at an early stage. You're all like, you're like, oh, I'm making this decision, but how do I know it's right? It comes when you listen to people who have been through it, when you have a mentor, when you read books, when you do these things, it helps you grow. It's self-development that takes you out of your, of your area, and makes you more empowering, more strong in whatever field you are. I think, Gia, that would be my take on your question. And I hope that helps you as a high schooler.
I have an interesting one here from Kuzali, which I like to answer, definitely. He says, my name is Kuzali. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. And I'm a 19-year-old Mauritian. And personally, I think that, like Cynthia mentioned, we have to break the mindset, but that won't be so easy. Let's be real, we're trying to change a structure that has been there for centuries. Don't get me wrong, as a youngster, I want to see gender equality growing. Stereotypes are still here. Tell me that you didn't give your girls dolls to play as kids while you gave your boys cars. Cars represent luxury money, while dolls refer to domestic space. Amazing comment.
Yeah.
Amazing comment.
Thank you, Kuzali.
Let me answer the question about the dolls and the cars. I actually did not. I actually did not give my girls dolls and my son cars, because, and I'll give you an example of how I think this can be a ripple effect of change in mindset. So when I was younger, my father was a medical doctor, my mother is an accountant. So I come from a very traditional academic African background, where if you didn't become a lawyer, a doctor, an architect, or one of those, you had not arrived. And I wanted to do music. I wanted to be an artist. As a child, I loved to dance. Wow. In fact, my parents took me to ballet lessons, piano lessons, all of that. But when I announced that I wanted to do music, you could have seen the look on people's faces when I said that. Oh no, you can't do music. Because the mindset was that anybody who goes into that profession is a dropout. Mm-hmm. Because the perception was that it's not. I was forced to go and do medicine. I went to university first year, dropped out, decided to get married instead, became the black sheep of the family, and went back to university when I had my second child and carved my own path. Many years down the line, I have a thriving law firm, but I do a lot of work within the music and entertainment, apart from being a banking and finance lawyer. So I'm very associated with the local Ghanaian entertainment scene on one angle. And one entertainer came to visit me at home when my mom was there, and she was saying, oh, thank you so much for, your daughter has been so amazing and she's been so supportive of the industry. And my mother opened her mouth and said, oh, she was supposed to be a musician herself. And I remember looking at her and thinking, excuse me, what you? He said, oh yeah, you were very talented. So I said, but why didn't you encourage me to do music? She said, well, you see, in my day, it wasn't allowed. If your child didn't do medicine, law, one of those things, it was not seen favorably. What am I trying to say to you? Because of that, I have 6 children. I have intentionally, from when they were young, not tried to determine their careers for them. I have not in any way determined their choice of subjects in school for them. Because I experienced that backwardness when I was young, I made an effort, and I still make an effort. Wait for me a minute. I still make an effort to ensure that my kids are given a platform. If my child wants to be a carpenter, that child is going to be the best carpenter.
Yeah.
My child wants to be an engineer, she's going to be a best engineer. So, Kuzali, what I mean by the mindset change is this. It's not going to be overnight. And you are absolutely right that it's been there for centuries. But if we have to also be fair, a typical Asian, typical African family 20 years ago is not the same Asian family or African family today. There has been change.
It has been.
Right? So we can only keep doing, and it may not happen in my generation, but Kuzali, it can happen in yours. Right? So my hope is that as we change and we impact that information, in centuries to come, we wouldn't have to be dealing with that. But it starts with knowledge and the mindset. So I hope I've answered your questions, Kuzali. I can appreciate that. What I would say to you is, don't be discouraged. The stereotypes will be there. In fact, the stereotypes will be everywhere, right? But fight your own little corner, do what you have to do, and become a pacemaker who is part of the reason for that change in your environment. That's the only thing you can do. You know, that's the only thing you can do. I do hope I've answered your question.
Okay, Cynthia, we have a question from Anil.
Yes.
And Anil says,
okay,
it has always been an agreed fact that the world is ruled by the strong and the weak suffer. So according to you, who is weak and who do you believe will fight for the weak? Your answer will also be the answer of why women have so few bank accounts. Okay, that's an interesting one, Anil. Who's going to fight for the weak? That's a deep one. Who is the weak?
See, I would say there are 2 different, this applies to 2 different sets of people, right? There are people who have opportunity to make change, who don't use that opportunity because they are meek in their minds. And there are people who are weak because they don't have those opportunities. We can't treat them all differently, right? Because the woman or the child in the village who comes from a very poor background, who doesn't have the opportunity to go to school and all of that, no matter how strong-headed they are, if the opportunity doesn't come, they will find it very difficult to be able to, you know, to do what they have to do. In my view, weak or strong is a mindset.
Yeah.
Starts there. Whatever your thoughts are is what you become. If you say you're weak, you are. Right? And I think personally, women are the strongest, some of the strongest species on this planet, these women. I mean, look at the things we do, combining families. There's just so many, you know, whatever, you know, that's my view. I need to commend Kuzali. He says, I agree with you. I myself have recently scored 3 A stars at A levels. I'm going to study law with management. And I hope to become an exemplar and leader eventually. And I hope that one day you will email me and one day you might visit Ghana and come and intern with my firm. Or when I come to Mauritius, I come and look out for you and see how you're doing. So please put us in touch. So I can be one of his, I'm going to appoint myself his mentor, one of his mentors. I don't care what all of you say, but that's amazing. Congratulations. But that is where the change comes from. Yeah. That's where the change comes from.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the moment you set your mind strong, before you even wait for someone to come and, you know, rescue you, you're going to rescue yourself. You are going to do it for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you see, but also, you see, women in leadership need to tell the truth and authentic stories.
Yeah.
When I speak on platforms and I bring up my past and I talk about the fact that I've been bankrupt before, you could always sometimes hear a pin drop, because people assume that if you're a leader or people perceive that you're a successful person, that it means you never failed. But that's not true. And so the more we share authentic stories about our lives, and the more we don't look at weakness as a bad thing or failure as a bad thing, the more we inspire other people to do more, right? Because if I have around me leaders and mentors and people who I've seen fail and do it and fail and do it and fail and do it, and have become successful, when I'm going through that journey and I fail, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep trying till I make it.
Yeah.
Right. And so in my case, what I say is that if you don't have such people, buy books, read, you know, people that you admire from afar. Autobiographies about how they started their lives. You know, Oprah Winfrey, look at her. I mean, she was sexually abused when she was a child. She did all of the things. She didn't even have a solid family background. But look at what Oprah became today. She became who she is today because she had a strong mind and said, you know, I'm going to change the narrative of my life. I'm not going to do, and then she became who she became. And you see that most people who have managed in life to make an impact, women, have all come from certain backgrounds that they really are not supposed to be where they are. So I think that organizations such as yourself and programs such as yourself and webinars and conversations such as yourself also are part of the what we need to effect that change, you know, in all of us around us, to make sure that people are here. And I'm hoping that as we've had this conversation, you know, I could have taken the topic from a completely different angle, but I thought, am I going to come and speak financial inclusion just to say what I know about financial inclusion and make noise about the statistics and go into all that without really challenging people that hopefully when you leave the seminar, you start to think a little bit different about your role and how we make that change. So, you know, I think, you know, definitely having conversations such as this, it's also absolutely important. It's
extremely, extremely important. And this is one of the key things we are trying to achieve ourselves as an organization. I think I'll take this last thing, Cynthia, and I'll have your point of views on it. Well, they say that when women do better, right, economies do better. Okay. So now I think since we are talking about women, business, and law, and we are here to talk and assess, rather, you know, economic opportunities, financial inclusion, what is your, you know, your important, the most important message you want to leave for our women who are here with us today and those who will be watching us? What do you want to tell them? Because, I mean, the economy is made up of all of us. We are all part of it. What do? I mean, how do we get, how do we, be part of driving economic opportunities?
Okay.
Yeah. What's your point?
Oh, gosh, I could speak on this forever. I think I started off by saying that it starts with us. First of all, it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to speak to 3 generations of women.
Sure.
And I'll start off with the younger woman, who may be here, or somebody who knows another younger woman. It is possible. No matter where you are, it is possible. Believe in yourself. Look around you. So long as you are prepared to work, it is possible for you to achieve anything you set your eyes on. It is possible for you to marry, have a career. It is possible for you to become whatever. To the woman who is about my generation, much older, who has walked the path, who has found themselves to be in a position where they can influence, I say to you, the one coming after you does not need to repeat the same mistakes. You made those mistakes. Take them under your arm and mentor and guide them. The more women you bring up, the more we change. So please, brighten your own corner. The next time you have to employ a domestic staff, and she comes to you and you're trying to negotiate salary, don't take advantage of her, right? Support her the way that you can support her. Because by supporting her, you might be supporting a female child who will be part of that change.
Yeah.
And I think in some, and this applies to all women, we definitely need to take responsibility for part of this. We must stop blaming external factors. And as women, we must mobilize ourselves for that change. The men have their own issues. They're not going to be fighting for us. We need to fight for ourselves. But the fighting is in the pen. The fighting is in getting education. The fighting is in ensuring that when you are on that board, you bring other people with you to influence that change. But above all, there is nothing you're going through today as a woman that will stop you from achieving anything. I am a mother of 6 children who I have raised for the last 15 years on my own as a single parent. I have been broke. I have been bankrupt. I have had cancer twice. I am divorced. I'm literally everything that you pretty much you could go through as a woman. But I stand because I believe in me, right? No matter what words were thrown at you as a child, by society has thrown at you, or you're a girl, you can't do it. You're not beautiful enough. You're not clever enough. You're not whatever. It's noise.
Yeah. Don't let
it go. When you were a child, we all had the innocence of being a child. There was a dream inside you as a child. And this goes to the men too on the platform. That in your innocence, you might have said, I wanted to be an astronaut, or I wanted to be a pilot. But somehow society managed to get you to believe you can never do it. Find that child in you, that innocent child, who was not clouded by judgment, but believed they could do it. And go back to that inner child of yours and believe that you can do it. And it starts with that. You will be faced with obstacles, but see those obstacles as opportunities, and you will make it.
Perfect. I think we have 2 questions here, Cynthia. Let's quickly go through those. So Kwabena asked, I would actually, I absolutely appreciate the fact that I'm able to say Kwabena properly. And I understand what Kwabena is. So Kwabena, thank you for joining us and thank you for your question. Well, Kwabena asked, is affirmative action the right policy tool in getting women to be included at top corporate or governance level?
You may not like my answer to this, but I'm not an advocate for affirmative action just to score points. I think that it depends on the type of affirmative action. At some point, what is it called? Positive discrimination. So where you're giving a woman a token space in the organization because it helps you fill out the criteria to make you look good. No. But if affirmative action means give women the opportunity they deserve on merit, then yes. I don't want you to give me something because you feel that by giving it to me, I don't actually deserve it, but you're giving it to me. I don't think that's what women want. What I'm saying is, if there's a position, take me on because I earned it. And you believe that I am capable. If I am not capable, don't hire me. But do not discriminate against me because I'm a woman. And if I have the same qualifications as a man, you decide to pay the man. If the one is better than me, don't hire me. But if I'm good enough for the job, give it to me. And let me prove it because I earned it. I've never been a believer of discrimination just as a cosmetic exercise. Because I believe there are enough women out there who deserve it. So that's my take on that.
Okay, so we will take a last one. I think the solution, it comes from Anita. Anita says, I think the solution which would enable women more involved, not only in finance, but also all other sectors is law. There is a need to amend the law and make it compulsory that women are represented at all levels. What is your opinion on this statement?
I absolutely believe that. And that's where the policy considerations and legal, all of that takes place. But before that, there's the advocacy bit, right? And the advocacy bit is what forces the change, right? And so the more of us who advocate, the more of us who go into leadership positions where we're given the opportunity to change, the more of us it will take for us to get to that. So I 100% believe that, but at the moment, if you have a seat on the table and that table is made out of 80% men and 20% women, and you're even voting by the sheer vote in terms of deciding that the law should be changed, or legislature or people in parliament, it's 14.5% of women are in Ghanaian parliament. So that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. So you're absolutely right, but
yeah,
you need to advocate.
Okay, so I think we've had an extremely insightful discussion today, Cynthia, and I think a lot of us, like our chat is telling us right now, they are taking things from, from this conversation, and they're, they're believing. I see Rich Portia says, let me read her comment. She says she did miss a bit of the discussion, but she's glad she joined because she has been inspired to do something in her small corner. I think I will take this comment as a success of our discussion, Cynthia. Thank you very much for your insights, for your perspective.
I would challenge you that it should not stop here.
Yeah.
We have to challenge ourselves individually to continue to not just dialogue, but continue on our path to try and enforce that change. We can meet and have feel-good conversations and then leave it. But I must applaud the Women in Finance and Investment Network for this platform and an opportunity. I applaud you for doing this, and I obviously pledge my support to whatever it is that you're doing.
Thank you.
You found a mentor in me, and so
thank you.
If there's anyone on the platform who you feel that I can spend some time with, who wants to have a chat, who I can mentor in one way or the other, I definitely volunteer my services. I am an extremely busy woman, but I will find time, even if it's half an hour coffee break, if it's Zoom break, we can have a chat to see what we do, because I need to brighten my own corner. And so my corner has extended to the Women in Finance and Investment Network by virtue of the fact that I'm on this platform. I think it's my opportunity for me to do that. And thank you so much. Ajua Fosuhini, thank you for such an insightful. Yes, please. Noella, yes, of course. Please send me. Okay. Send me an email.
Yes. So all of you.
And I believe I've got one of my lawyers on the platform. Sharon said something. So I'm sure within CQ Legal and Consulting, we will, now that Sharon has said, let's set up something, we may want to do something, a pro bono. Yes, so Sharon is here representing the lawyers here. I'm sure that we can come up with something, a scheme that we can do in association with the Women Finance and Investment Network, where we can provide some mentorship, whether it is virtual mentorship, but we can at least commit some time to do that. And Sharon, you said yes, so that means 100 can go. You can go and talk to all the team members, so they can volunteer. But we're here for you.
I think for our participant here, I would also suggest that we can have a conversation. I can have a conversation with you, Cynthia, about the way to go forward with it. And you can always send us an email at info@wyffin.global.
Actually, exactly.
.org.
You're in the Netherlands. We can arrange it. We can arrange it by virtual. So I think the best thing is go to the women and think they'll recommend you. Comes that way, we can set something. Even if it means having another session with a smaller group of you, we can arrange it, and I can draw in a few other professional women within the law who might want to support.
Let's
keep the conversation going.
Perfect. What I suggest to the audience here, you can reach out via email. Okay, just feel free, just write us an email about what you're looking for. So we can, I think what I can do from the Ghana chapter or just the organization as a whole, if we're going virtual or anything, and I can arrange, the kind of sessions we can have, and then, we have a conversation about it. Definitely, I'll give you a call in the coming days.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's keep making it happen. I think, like I said, today
all of you taking time. No, I'm excited. I know people from Ontario. Have you gone to bed? Some people have dropped off because I'm sure their time zones are different.
Yeah.
But Rabab, are you still here? Good night. No, you're behind me. Why do I keep thinking you're ahead of me? So who's ahead of me? Mauritius, Brooklyn are behind us.
Okay, but most of our participants
So who's like 12 midnight? Okay, there are a few more messages here. It's afternoon here for you, right? Okay, it's afternoon for you, yes, because you are 5 or 4 hours behind us. Okay, so that's not too bad then.
Perfect.
Anyway, it's nearly 6 o'clock for me here, so it's the end of my day.
Same.
And thank you all so much for the privilege. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you to our participants.
Johan says it's 9:45. Johan says it's 9:45. Okay, so yes.
Thank you.
So it's bedtime, Johan.
Thank you, Johan, for taking interest. Thank you to everyone who stayed till the very end. Until we meet again, let's keep making it happen. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye.